Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we're kind of talking about facial recognition, but not in the way that you think. There is some new technology coming out, and this article is from Live Science, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. And basically, there is a new neural network, artificial intelligence that's being developed called speech to face. And what this is basically doing is it is taking, let's say, your voice, my voice, for example, and it is using artificial intelligence to recreate my face, even though it's never seen a picture of me. Now, basically, what the researchers have done is they gave this thing or fed this thing millions of educational videos. I'm quoting from the article here, and they showed over 100,000 different people talking. Now, from this data set, speech to face was actually able to learn associations between vocal cues and certain physical features in a human face. Now, this is actually pretty interesting because the article says, and I quote, "Thankfully, AI doesn't yet know exactly what a specific individual looks like based on their voice alone. The neural network recognized certain markers in speech that pointed to gender, age, and ethnicity, features that are shared by many people," the author reports. But this is actually very interesting because they also showed in this article, and I will post this in the comments, faces that look pretty uncannily close to the celebrity that they had talking. And you can see, like, they had Craig Daniels, aka James Bond, in there. I think Phyllis Diller was one of them, and some others. And it's actually interesting how close it is. I also find it interesting, too, that there are certain characteristics within our faces that give our voice the structure or the sound that it has. So cheekbones, basically the shape of your nose, your sinus passages, all that kind of stuff. And it really comes out very interesting. Now, I think this opens up another interesting can of worms here. Now, before I get into that, they're basically saying that there's also some inaccuracies with this. Sometimes it shows gender bias, associating low-pitched voices with male faces, typically over females, and high-pitched voices, obviously, with female faces. And I quote here, "And because the training data set represents only educational videos from YouTube, it does not represent equally the entire world population at the moment, but it's constantly being developed. And like all of these AIs that are being developed, it's also being honed." Now, the reason why I find this very interesting is this has some practical application, I think. So, for example, let's say a crime was caught on camera, but the film, the video of it itself was so grainy, you can't make out a suspect's face. They might be able to apply speech to that, if the guy's like, "stick him up," or whatever, to try to get a composite of this. But again, we worry about false positives. We've already seen false positives on facial recognition systems, and this is taking it one step further by being one step removed. Now, the other thing that I think is very interesting in this is that we are looking at trying to create some kind of legislation and regulation for things like facial recognition. And there has been a political push for governments to try to regulate this, excuse me, not to mention companies that are now trying to take facial recognition very seriously in terms of privacy. So Microsoft just claimed they deleted their complete facial recognition database. And a lot of people think that's a step in the right direction, but we have other companies like Amazon with their recognition system that is doing anything but, and they're trying to sell this to law enforcement, even though there's a 1/3 chance for women and minorities to be falsely identified with this. And I think that if we are looking at this, as we are starting to see a cottage industry grow, with things like masks or other stuff that might obscure your face, it may be irrelevant because all they need is your voice. So what are we doing now? Buying voice scramblers? I think that's going to be a very interesting question that we're going to have to answer in the future, in the sense that with all of this recognition technology and all of this data mining and all of its practical application, let's say for law enforcement, but also for possible violations of privacy for a non-criminal citizen, where do we go with this? Where does this end? How do we keep developing this? And if so, how are we regulating and controlling this from getting completely out of hand? So I think it's very interesting technology. I'm going to take the picture courtesy of Live Science. I'm going to try to post it in the threads on Facebook and LinkedIn, probably Twitter, and anywhere else I post if I can, just so you guys can see what I'm talking about, because it is, while it's not 100%, it is getting there, and it is getting there rather quickly. So that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.